4 losses in a row. Cancel the season. We're done here. So, not a great week for the Oilers. 4 straight losses, 2 of them at home against teams that were playing their second game in as many nights. They're having an impossible time scoring goals. Cam Talbot has come crashing back down to earth. And they just generally look like the polar opposite of the team that came out of the gate 7-1 to start the season. So what exactly is happening here? Well, like I said, Cam Talbot is no longer playing superhuman. He's playing merely good. And, I knew that he was never going to be able to keep up that pace for the rest of the year, but I also didn't think he would come crashing down quite this hard. He's let in 3 or more goals in 7 straight games. The guy clearly needs a night or 3 off at this point. His play was masking a lot of the deficiencies the Oilers have in their defensive game, and right now it's exposing just exactly how far they have to go still. And I'm sure that a lot of people's first instinct is just kind of throw their hands in the air and blame everything on Talbot. When your goal is letting in 4 goals a game for 4 games in a row, not great. But how many of those goals were due to defensive breakdowns? Look at that Nick Ritchie goal in the Anaheim game the other day. They're doing a Chinese fire drill style line change. Milan Lucic gives the puck away at the offensive blue line. The Ducks turn it right back up the ice, and somehow Nick Ritchie gets behind every single player on the ice and wide open and on a breakaway, and he scores. And I think the less that's said about that horrible Eberle back check on that Roussel goal against Dallas, the better. All I will say is this. Woof. And like I said, Talbot clearly needs a day off or maybe a full week off at this point, but McClellan's reluctance to put Jonas Gustafsson in kind of backs up my thoughts that in the summer, not a great signing. I have to think that if they had someone like Chad Johnson or someone who has a better track record, they would have gotten in there a lot earlier. But, at this point, Cam Talbot's on pace to play 81 games, and, Jonas Gustafsson's sitting there just collecting dust on the bench, and I don't know, to me that says a lot. Having said that, I'm obviously ready for the monster to shove it up my backside and post 4 shutouts in a row, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Second biggest problem. No one other than Connor McDavid and now Jordan Eberle. Welcome back, Jordan. Good to see you again. No one else is scoring any goals. They're not getting any secondary scoring, and as we've seen with individual Oilers so far this year, it's not for lack of trying. They fired 116 shots on net in the last 3 games, and they have 4 goals to show for it. And for those of you who are shitty at math like me, that means they're shooting at 3% right now. To put that in perspective, the team with the worst shooting percentage over the last decade were the 14-15 Phoenix Coyotes, who had a 6.9% shooting average, and that's twice as much as what the Oilers are doing right now. So, trying to peek through and find the silver lining, there's no way this can continue, and as long as they keep putting up 40 shots on net a game, the goals will come eventually. But also, wouldn't it be just the most Oiler thing ever for them to get out to such a hot start and then have the lowest shooting percentage in league history for the rest of the season? Oh god, why did I just put that out into the universe? One thing that I think we should all keep in mind is that this is the same team that also had trouble scoring last year. And what did they do? They went out and they traded their leading scorer in the summer. If you're part of the get over it crowd, you might want to just put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 for the next 10 or 15 seconds or so. So as I sit here and I watch these games and watch the Oilers struggle to score goals and watch 3 lines struggling, I can't help but wonder what the team would look like if they could roll what would essentially be 2 first lines, something akin to what Pittsburgh does with Crosby and Malkin. I'm just saying. And as an aside, of course Taylor Hall blows his knee out in fucking the middle of November as he's getting hot for the Devils. Why are you so vengeful, hockey gods? A lot of us advocated picking P.A. Toronto off waivers before the season started. He's got 5 goals right now, which would be second on the Oilers. But they didn't. I personally advocated for bringing back Sam Gagner on a cheap contract. He's got 6 goals and 9 points playing right wing in the bottom 6 this year. And they didn't. They let Christopher Stieg walk down Highway 2 to Calgary after they told him that he'd be the understudy to an 18-year-old rookie with no NHL experience under his belt. And, there are probably other guys that I can't even think of off the top of my head right now that would have been great fits for the Oilers in terms of veteran scoring depth, but in true Oiler fashion, they decided to do the tried-and-true method of just plugging in rookies into those spots and just hoping for the best. Puyarvi has 3 points so far, and Kajula hasn't even gotten into an NHL game yet, so And it's this type of thing that drives me and a lot of other fans nuts. Just these seemingly obvious moves that can shore up depth for cheap, but the Oilers just sit there and go, man, don't need it. We got Zach Cassidy to play in the second line. We're fine. And they're also getting virtually no offense from the back end. Top pairing of Klefbom and Larson have 1 goal and 6 points between them in 17 games so far. Where are all those people that kept telling us that, Larson was going to become a 40-point defenseman just by virtue of playing with Connor McDavid? What happened, guys? Benoit Pouliot has no points in 10 games. Nuge only has 1 point in his last 5. Lucic has 2 in his last 9. Draisaitl has 3 in 13. Boy, he sure doesn't miss Taylor Hall, does he? And these are guys that are expected to put up points because they do put up points. They have put up points in the past. So again, trying to find a silver lining in here. These guys will score eventually. They've shown it before. There's no way that they can stay this cold for much longer. But again, right now, the lack of scoring depth on the Oilers is being exposed mightily right now. And again, these are guys that can score. They will score. There's no way they can stay this cold for this long. But I mean, right now, McClellan's only option is to pull names out of a hat to make up the lineup and then just hope and pray that somebody breaks out of a slump. And third, another big part of the problem is that they've entered a really tough stretch of the season. 9 of their first 10 games were against teams that didn't make the playoffs last year, whereas the next 7 have been against playoff teams, one of which is the defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins, and the other is the Western Conference champion Dallas Stars. So I think what we're seeing right now is that the Oilers still have plenty of things to do, plenty of work to do before they're really considered an actual playoff contender. So, is it time to panic? Well, if you came into the season expecting the Oilers to make the playoffs this year, then you probably already have been panicking for a few days now. But if you're someone who thought that the team was going to take some steps forward, they're going to grow a little bit, they're going to finish better than last year, then, I think you kind of have to be happy with what's going on so far. Obviously, a 4-game losing streak is never going to sit well. Obviously, the team can't score goals, which fucking sucks. But, I mean, look at the Pittsburgh game. They got up to a 3-1 lead, and they were in the game. They were tied with Pittsburgh until the last 90 seconds of the game. So that's, we would never have seen that last year. And like I said, the shooting percentage can't stay this low forever, and if they keep putting on 35 to 40 shots or more on net a game, then the goals are going to start coming in bunches, they're going to start winning games, and we can go back to making ill-advised Stanley Cup parade routes in no time. And I wouldn't say they're playing bad per se. I mean, again, it's not great, but the Anaheim game, they looked like shit. But the Rangers game was kind of hit or miss. But I mean, again, I didn't feel like any of these 4 losses were none of them were blowouts, and it didn't feel like the Oilers got their shit pushed in like they normally would last year, time after time. Face-offs have gotten way better this year. The PK continues to still roll along well. It's arguably the biggest strength of the Oilers so far this season has been their penalty kill. I mean, a lot of that, again, goes back to Cam Talbot being awesome, but, hey, beggars can't be choosers. And they got a lot of guys that look to be ready to be coming back from injury here pretty soon, which, in the very least will give Todd McClellan some options. He can, mix and match some guys, take some guys out, put some guys in that deserve to be in there, try and see if he can spark some more chemistry. And this bears repeating. This is the most important part of the season so far. We are in the middle of November right now, and the Edmonton Oilers are fighting for first place in the Pacific with the Anaheim Ducks and the San Jose Sharks. I mean, how many virgins would we have sacrificed to a volcano last year just to not be eliminated from the playoffs by this time last year? And I mean, with the Pacific being the tire fire that it is, if the Oilers can find a way to win 3 games here, 4 games here, maybe limit the losing streaks to, only 2 or 3 games, I mean, I don't know. I still don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but if they can do that and the rest of the Pacific continues to be terrible, then, I might have to start legitimately believing that this team has a chance. I think being, a 9-5 team is kind of closer to where they probably should be. Their 7-1 start wasn't indicative of how good they are, and I don't think this 4-game losing streak is indicative of how bad they are. I think they're somewhere right in the middle. Like I said, I think if they can win 2 or 3 games here, lose a game here, win 4 here, lose 3 here, if they play somewhere close to 500 hockey for the rest of the season, I think that'll be a successful season overall. Everything points to the Oilers being somewhere in the middle of the pack right now in terms of basically everything. And I mean, when was the last time you could say the Oilers were average at anything? What a season!